Welcome to Spirit Gym. When we talk about COVID vaccines, most conversations stay in the realm of biology and medicine, immune responses, mRNA, spike proteins, and the like. But what if there's another layer of impact, one that exists in the structure of our energy fields, our etheric body, and the subtle anatomy described by Rudolf Steiner over a century ago? In today's episode, Paul is talking with Thomas Meyer, a researcher, author, and longtime meditation teacher, about what happens when we examine the pandemic through the lens of spiritual science. They explore documented clairvoyant observations, the possible mechanisms of vaccine shedding from an energetic perspective, and how shifts in our subtle body might affect consciousness itself. If you're ready to look beyond the petri dish and into the energetic blueprint of the human being, stay tuned. This conversation may change the way you think about health, medicine, and the nature of reality itself. Before we dive in, we'd like to say thank you for listening, as this podcast would not be possible without you, our subscribers and followers. We'd also like to thank our sponsors, Organifi, Bioptimizers, Paleo Valley, Wild Pastures, Peak Life, and Correct. You'll hear their special offers and discounts throughout this episode, or you can visit the show notes page at paulchek.com/podcast. And if you want to explore the deeper levels of connection and conversation available in Paul's Spirit Gym membership community, go to myspiritgym.com for details.
Well, everybody, I'm excited to have Thomas Meyer here today, who is the author of an absolutely excellent and very important book, COVID vaccines from a spiritual perspective, consequences for the soul and spirit and for life after death. This is what the book likes, should you see the video, looks like. And I want to tell you a little short story before we get into the podcast with Thomas about why I wanted to have Thomas on the podcast and what led me to his book. Most of you know enough about me to know that I work in spiritual dimensions and do all sorts of different things, from remote viewing to astral work to entity extractions and all sorts of things. So none of this is shockingly new to me, and probably not to you to hear about. But what you may not know is a few months ago, I guess it was, I don't know how long ago now, it was in a while back, maybe a few months ago now, it's maybe 5 or 6 months ago. I haven't missed a day of work in over 40 years due to illness. I sometimes will feel my body fighting something off. The kids bring stuff home from school all the time. But normally I just, slow down, sauna more, and just not push my body so hard. But something got a hold of me right before my one of my workshops here, which was a mandala workshop, or my most popular workshop. And I began to feel more and more tired, and it didn't seem like anything that I did was winning. And then I woke up one morning and I was just exhausted and felt terrible. And I started realizing that I was losing my sense of smell, my sense of taste, and my balance got so bad I could barely get on and off of a toilet. And that's extremely unusual for me. And I recognized immediately these were some of the classic symptoms attributed to the COVID virus, or whatever COVID is. And so with that awareness, I had to start canceling clients because I just didn't feel like I had anything to give to people. And unfortunately, I had a workshop to teach, and I didn't realize what was happening till the day before the workshop. So I went through this, and about 5 days into this process, I began having extremely intense, vivid experiences of what I would classify a spiritual attack. I would find myself in a hypnagogic state right when I was falling asleep. And I began to be aware that there was very dark entities penetrating my field And I've worked with a lot of entities in my career. And one of the first things that I did was I went to my catalogs of entities, and I couldn't find any of these entities in there. I also, using my clairvoyance, looked inside of myself, and I saw what looked like metallic nanobots made of largely triangular shapes, permeating my body, running through my lungs and my arteries and veins and cutting me all up. And that deeply concerned me. And so, as I always do, I immediately began working with my soul and clearing as much of these entities as I could. But there was these very, very dark beings that I had not seen before. And they came in two different particular classes, both of them extremely ugly and very, very aggressive. And so I happened to talk to a buddy of mine who's an expert on Steiner's teachings, Waldorf school teacher, who's been on the podcast multiple times, Edmund Knighton. And he said, well, Paul, do you know that there's a book put out by the Waldorf publishers that's got a lot of information on the COVID vaccines and spiritual entities? And I said, now that you mention it, I think that book's in my library. I bought it. But what happened is I got so exhausted of studying COVID stuff, I just stopped. After 5 years of constant study, I just felt overwhelmed, just saturated. So sure enough, I walked into my library in my Rudolf Steiner section, which has about 185 Steiner books in it. And there was Thomas Mayer's beautiful book, COVID Vaccines from a Spiritual Perspective. And so the first thing I did is I looked through the book, page by page, looking for pictures of any of these entities. And lo and behold, I found a picture of one of the two of the darkest, nastiest of the entities in his book, which is a Sorat, which Thomas will explain as we get going here. But I had to fight very, very hard. In all my days of conducting healing ceremonies and plant medicine ceremonies and entity extractions, this was the toughest battle I ever had to go into to clear entities from my body. And I would work with my soul and bring in as much of God consciousness as I could, raise my vibration, and I would push them away. But then within an hour or two, they'd be back. And I wish it was going to stop there, but I had an experience, and I'm wanting Thomas to hear this as well. He's listening patiently to this introduction. And my wife, as you know, Angie, is a highly trained shaman, and so she's very, very skilled at this stuff. And she would be waking up in the middle of the night because I had to get out of bed. There was such a battle going on to protect myself. These entities were trying to penetrate right through from my astral field into my etheric field into my body. The nanobots were already in my body, and I could see them, and so I was taking supplements, which fortunately helped deactivate them. But at one point, I was sound asleep, and then I began having a lucid dream that these entities were attacking me. So I woke up and turned on my clairvoyant vision. And one of these Soratic beings was very, very big and very ugly and very aggressive. And it was carrying a sai like you use to cut wheat or hay. I'm sure you've seen an old style sai with a long curved blade on it. And it came at me and swung that sai at me. And I had an experience I've never had before, which shocked the hell out of me and still has me a bit shocked to this very day. And as it swung that sai at me, at the instant that it hit my body, something went right through my tongue and left my tongue bleeding. And literally that wound took about 2 weeks to heal. And it happened exactly at the moment that sai came through my field and hit me. And that was the first time in my life I've ever had an entity penetrate through my physical body and leave a wound on me. And so at that time, I came to realize that I needed to do my best to help people learn how to protect themselves, how to heal, and that these entities were of a different nature than the ones I've experienced in the past. I've certainly experienced lots of entities get into people's minds and emotions and disrupt them and act like alter personalities, but I'd never had an entity actually leave a wound on me before, nor had I seen them leave wounds on other people. So I read Thomas's book cover to cover, and it was absolutely excellent. And it covered all the important details and all the things we'll get into today. So it's really great, Thomas, to have you here. And I wanted you to hear that story from me directly so you know why I have you here. And so we can get right into the thick of all this stuff. So welcome, Thomas. And maybe to begin with, if you want to share any thoughts on what I just shared, you can. But what go ahead.
Yeah, welcome, Paul. Thank you for inviting me. But I'm quite interested. What do you think? Where have you taken on these entities? Why? Why do you have taken on it? Where do they come from?
Well, what I did was I worked with my soul, and I asked exactly that question because I've only had an entity possession one time in my professional career. I've worked with tons of them, but it's very rare for me to get penetrated by an entity. The first time I ever got penetrated by one, I was doing a healing for a very sick woman who was really in a very dark, depressed place in Toronto, Canada, while I was on the road. And after I worked with her, I began to feel really lethargic and depressed, which is very unusual for me. I'm not a guy that gets depressed. And so I felt like something was strange. And I kind of am a person who's got a very strong personality. And I never even thought that I would get possessed or have one enter me. But by the grace of God, I was in Toronto, and there's this little hole-in-the-wall Chinese restaurant that I used to go to for lunch because it was the only place that served organic food. And when I walked in there, the lady that owned it, a little Chinese woman, as soon as I walked in the door and stood in front of the counter to order, she looked at me and she said, "Paul, how are you feeling right now?" I said, "To be honest with you, I'm feeling really lousy. I just did a healing on a lady, and I don't know what's going on, but I'm feeling quite off and depressed." She said, "Well, you have an entity possession right now." I said, "Really? How do you know that?" She said, "Well, I'm an energy healer, and I've been studying Chinese medicine for many years, and my restaurant's up for sale because I'm starting my practice full time." And she said, "Would you like me to show you how to remove that entity?" And I said, "Yes." So she took me through a process, which I've used now many, many times successfully. And I was able to extract the entity in a very short period of time. And I returned to normal and felt normal. So when this happened to me, Thomas, I asked my soul, why did this happen to me? And my soul said, for two reasons. One, you've been working so hard, you're lacking sleep and your body's gotten too weak. So your immune system's compromised, and you got this from vaccine shedding from all the people coming to your workshops and to your house that have been vaccinated. So you didn't get COVID from transfer through like a typical viral infection. You got it from vaccine shedding, and it came in with the vaccine. And my soul then said, you also got it because you need to understand what's happening to people in the world, because with your knowledge and understanding, you're going to be able to help people know what to do with this. And you will do the work to find somebody to get on your podcast that can help you explain this. And so that's what happened leading up to me finding your book and studying it and then reaching out to you.
Okay, thank you for sharing the story. It's quite a deep story, and we are now in the I think in the core of the theme, yeah, because shedding is a spiritual shedding, and the demonic beings you can get it only by meeting someone. But I wanted to also share one story. A friend of mine came some month ago, and he said that he had been suffering from depression about 6 months, but he didn't know why. And in this session, I found that all spiritual phenomena of a COVID vaccination in his aura, like you have described, it's one phenomena. This, I would call it transhumanistic somatic beings. But my friend, he had not been vaccinated. He had picked up these spirits from others. And we did a healing session around 1 hour with a lot of healing prayer, and I had have a lot of special skills to do it. And after this hour, he immediately felt relief and relaxation. And since then, the depression was gone. And I asked him several times in the following month whether it had stayed that way, and he said yes. So it's another example how shedding can work. And it could be, for some people, it could be quite sharp, though, that they stay in the depression. And it's quite important to understand it, because if you don't think it could be shedding, you cannot do a real healing work.
Yeah.
So thank you, but I should introduce myself a little bit.
Yeah. I would love to know about you, your background. You're obviously very well versed in Steiner's teachings. I looked at your website. I did a fair bit of looking into you and thought, wow, I've seen a number of your books, and I probably have other books by you in my library. I have about 5,000 books in my library, so I got a pretty comprehensive library. But I'd love to hear sort of how you developed and how you developed these skills, and anything that you want to share so that the listeners kind of get a sense of who you are.
You've seen the posts and videos of Paul in his rock stacking garden, standing beside a rock stack that is easily 3 times as tall as he is. Maybe you've wondered how on earth he gets those rocks to balance in seemingly impossible angles and configurations, or how he stacks the top rocks over 10 feet above his head. Well, now you can get the answers to all those questions and experience the wisdom of the stone Buddhas, as Paul calls the rocks, for yourself at the upcoming Zen in the Garden Rock and Soul Workshop. It all happens on September 27th at Paul's home in the north of San Diego County, California. Paul will show you techniques to access and gain soul guidance and ways to calm and center yourself to let your soul guide you when working with the stones. You'll also learn the essentials of effective and safe stone lifting for some good old primal conditioning with stones. And Paul will show you how he uses stones to get an incredible workout that goes far beyond anything in a gym. We invite you to join us for a fun, sweaty day filled with stillness, movement, good food, great water from Paul's stone water charger, amazing people, and a whole bunch of rocks. Go to paulchek.com/events for full details and to register. That's paulchek.com/events.
Yeah. So, my name is Thomas Meyer, and I come from the southern Germany, and you can hear it, my German accent, and sometimes I use English word in the wrong way, but you will understand what I will say.
That's good.
And I have been teaching anthroposophical meditation together with my partner Agnes since 2004. And we offer about over 40 weekends and week-long courses every year. So that's nearly a full-time job.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it's really a lot. Sometimes also in America, but mainly in the middle of Europe, Germany, Switzerland, Austria. So, and a little bit to my background. So I have spent 20 years working for the right of initiative and referendum in Germany. And I have been involved in setting up 2 organizations for direct democracy. Also like we, in Switzerland, it's usual, but in Germany there was nearly nothing. It's only the oligarchic party system, and you have nothing to say as a citizen.
Yeah.
And a highlight was a referendum, More Democracy in Bavaria, in 1995. In which the Bavarian population gave itself the right of referendum in communities and districts through a statewide referendum. And I was the organizer and speaker of this initiative, and it was really a breakthrough at the time. And another focus of my work was regional currencies. So a money system parallel to the normal system, and from which the Chiemgauer was created in Bavaria. It's a big regional currency in South Germany. So, and that is my political side of my life. But
Well,
I'm
I'm glad you're interested in freedom.
yeah, yeah. I'm really interested in freedom, and I suffer a lot about the political system in Europe and in Germany. It's so crazy, but that's another issue.
Yeah, another podcast.
Yeah, that's another broadcast. And you can't go in depression if you speak about it. But let's go back. So I'm the author, and I have written, I think, 12 books about nature spirits, and 2 of my books on elemental beings and nature spirits have been translated into English. And but I also wrote about the monetary system and a big book about the war in the Ukraine. So a mixture between political issues and spiritual issues.
Well, they go together, don't they?
Yeah, so I'm in every side of the life.
Yeah, good. You're a busy man.
Yeah, but all my life I have been interested in super sensible perception and spiritual research. That is really the core of my being. And in my own spiritual research, Anthroposophy, the science of the spiritual worlds, have been very helpful. When I was a boy of 15, I read the book Knowledge of the Higher Worlds by Rudolf Steiner. And in this book, he describes the meditative path of training through which the spiritual organs of perception can be developed. And that was a relief for me with 15 years.
Yeah.
Because I understood it's not necessary to believe anything. Instead, I can empirically explore the spiritual world myself. Mm-hmm. And that was really a great discovering. And I immediately began the exercises described in the book. Yeah, but it took a lot of time and a lot of fateful events to come further. And what I understood is spiritual training cannot be done from the comfort of your sofa. It can only be achieved by immersing yourself in it as a whole person. Mm-hmm. So that is important to understand. Mm-hmm. And one focus of my work is the afterlife. So that every day I'm in contact with someone who is dead.
Me too.
And for decades I have been studying how the deceased get stuck and do not have a normal post-mortem development. I estimate that half of the dead today are earthbound, and these dead people, they cannot enter the light of the spiritual world. Mm. So that's a little bit of my biggest themes. And this also gave me a big background to write a book about the effects of the COVID vaccination, because the effects are also effects in the life after death.
Right. Yeah. And later we'll get into that for sure, because I'm very interested in what you have to say on that. I haven't looked into tracking any people that have died from COVID vaccines to see what their afterlife process looks like, but for other reasons, I found a lot of people trapped in the astral dimension that are not moving forward. And I talked about that in my podcast with my wife, Angie Chek, and a medium called Sally Crow in the past. So people that want to listen to that podcast, I believe it's called something like Life After Death or Beyond Death, but it's with Angie Chek and SALICROW. So, Thomas, it's great to know that you are coming at this from a deep personal and experiential base, and that it's part of your life, and these are not odd things for you. And they're not for me either, which is why I immediately went to, I have a couple of almost like dictionaries of negative entities and spirits, because I have worked with so many people that have these problems, and I like to know if I can find information about them, because it helps me understand them and what's going on better. But I could not find any pictures of the one that hurt me until I got into your book. And when I found it, I went, oh my God, there it is. And you probably remember, it's the black thing that's holding knives in all its arms, and very ugly. And I was really quite shocked, because I've done a lot of work in different dimensions, and I've done approximately 1,000 healing ceremonies using plant medicines in my own research, and gone extremely deep. And I've encountered all sorts of beings in different dimensions, and working with my soul and the techniques, I know I could protect myself from them. But this was a level of scary entities that even shocked me after I've been doing this work for over 40 years now. So I'm not usually very shocked by these things. I just kind of interact with them and talk to them. But these things were of a different caliber. And so reading your book made me go, okay, good. I'm not going crazy. And there is somebody that understands this. So maybe we could talk about, your book title is dealing with COVID vaccine from a spiritual perspective. The term spiritual perspective means different things to different people. So could you elaborate on what you mean when you use the word spiritual, and what the spiritual perspective you're referring to with regard to these vaccines is, how it impacts humanity?
Yeah, I think everything, every consciousness, every process, every object has a soul and a spiritual level.
Mm-hmm.
You can always look to these levels, to everything. And spiritual research means investigating the soul and the spiritual level of something. And spiritual research is an empirical science. And it's not about abstract theoretical discussions. It's about these observations. And I deep-rooted in anthroposophy because Rudolf Steiner created a comprehensive foundation for spiritual research in countless fields of knowledge, and it's always helpful to if you do not understand something. I often look what is Rudolf Steiner saying. Often I found something and then I get it, and then I can go further. And often I only can understand my own experiences through the spiritual literature. So that is a spiritual perspective and with regard to the COVID vaccination, we ask ourselves the following questions: what is in the aura of the vaccine? Which spirit beings are connected with the vaccine? And how do the supersensible members of the human being change when people have taken the vaccine? And what effects of the vaccination can be found in the life after death? So that is what I mean with spiritual perspective. But I would like to explain why I did come to investigate the spiritual effects of the COVID vaccine.
Yes, please do.
Yes, the vaccination started in the beginning of 2021. And in a working group, we took a woman into meditation who had just died and had received a vaccination shortly before her death. And the woman was in a terrible state. Her etheric body, the body of life forces, was like a solid block. The etheric body should, after death, should expand and become lighter, but it didn't. And the woman suffered greatly and was in a state of shock. And then we discovered that this was a consequence of the COVID vaccination.
Yeah.
But we didn't yet understand the details. But I was very concerned about what is happening to humanity there, because millions and billions of people take get this vaccination.
Yes.
And that was the initial impulse, really, to experience the suffering of this dead woman. That went so deep in my heart, and this was the initial impulse for deeper investigation. And I asked my network of researchers and therapists using supersensible perception what perceptions they had with the COVID vaccination. And I received reports from over 50 people, and I used this material then to write the book COVID Vaccines from a Spiritual Perspective. And it was a hard work. I really tried to be quick, to be quick.
Yeah, you did a great job. It's a very good book. It's very well written.
But it's not only, it's of course for the incarnated people, but I really get a lot of pressure from the spiritual world because a lot of deceased that people didn't understand what's going on.
Right.
And if you are working through a theme and writing a book, when people are reading the book, they understand more. Then this also has effects on the realm of the dead people, because then, the information is there, and then they can understand what's going on with them.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit. To the background and my motivation.
Yeah, well, it's very good,
but I want to come to. I want to say something more. What you have explained. So I think my experience is the spiritual world also organize the encountering which are right for you. And I know by myself that the beings I encounter get more aggressive and more worse always. It gets worse and worse. And for 20 or 30 years, it was, I didn't think that so much terrible demonic beings are around, because I was sheltered by my angel, because I was not ready to encounter it. But then always, when you are ready, then you get the next challenge, and you are alive. So it was okay.
It was hard work. I lost so much weight. I couldn't eat for almost a week, and I lost so much weight. My underwear were falling off of me, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm turning into an old man. I mean, I'm 63 already, but I was like, I'm starting to look like 63, and it was very unusual for me. I'm a very fit, strong guy. I'm super excited to let you guys know that I found an amazing energy product. I had previously fell in love with Update, but my buddy Aubrey, who is here with me right now, came to me and said, Paul, I've got something I think you'll like even better than Update. And I was suspicious because it's pretty hard to beat it. So I waited for the right day when I felt like I could really use a little energy boost, and I tried it, and I was absolutely blown away. Not only did it give me a beautiful, smooth lift, but I felt like a sense of holism, integration, like I had been doing Tai Chi. It flowered. It was like the sun shining. And I thought, wow, this is actually pretty damn good, and it's worth me telling people about. So I've got Aubrey here to tell us a little bit more specifics about his amazing new Correct Energy product. So Aubrey, tell us a little more about it. It's a phenomenal product. I'm very impressed.
Well, thank you so much. Honestly, I wouldn't have started another supplement company after Onnit if we weren't able to make this product. This product actually birthed the company.
Oh, great.
It was so good and so powerful and so important, I felt like. And it was like, we have to launch this product. We have to build a company to allow this to be the core. And like you said, the main ingredient is the same as it is in Update, which is the Infinity, that paraxanthine, which is a caffeine metabolite. So it's something that your body naturally breaks caffeine down into in the body.
Yes.
They were able to isolate that. And it really feels like in some ways, like the spirit of caffeine. Like
yes.
It killed the very essence of caffeine itself. all of the things that we wish caffeine would do and all the things we wish caffeine wouldn't do. It captures that in a really unique way.
And none of the buzz that I get from caffeine, it's just smooth. It's really amazing, smooth, uplifting energy. And I don't feel any hangover or letdown from it at all. It's just really just like a little elevator ride up to a higher level of creativity and self-expression.
Yeah, and that's one of the beautiful parts about it. It feels both completely subtle and absolutely powerful. Like you'll take it, may even forget that you took it, but then realize you just had the best 6 hours, that you've had in a long time. And I think it's a combination of that paraxanthine core. The Infinity is the branded core, which is a scientific advancement, isolating this caffeine metabolite. Then we do what, we always do and surround it with the best plant extracts. So Mangifera indica, it helps support the dopamine pathway. It's actually from the mango. And then Alpinia galanga, we have a branded extract of that. And that was a real insight that we had. We looked at the different plant extracts that worked well with caffeine and made the bet that those things that worked well with caffeine would work well with the caffeine metabolite. So both of these different herbal extracts actually inhibit the breakdown of dopamine in the body and then support actually what caffeine would do. So we have these natural plant extracts, including quercetin, decaf green coffee, decaf green tea. So we treated this like there's a natural intelligence to caffeine. We've isolated the intelligence of what the body does with caffeine and then surrounded it with the herbs and different compounds to give this kind of holistic formula that I really believe it's the best energy product that exists
out there. I wouldn't be here with you. I don't sell or offer anything that I don't fully trust and use myself and wouldn't give to my own family. So I'm so grateful that you created this and shared it with me. So for those of you that want to give energy a try, go to Correct Life. That's KORRECT life.com/Spirit Gym and get 15% off on your first order. Aubrey, thank you again.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Okay. But that's my experience is always that's always only in the first encountering. If you have it after 10 encounterings, it gets normal, and you know better how to stand with it.
Well, I'm fortunate that I have, I've done entity extractions on too many people to even count. I have a very comprehensive podcast series on entity possession. It's called Are You Possessed? It's a 7-hour program that people can buy. And I have a lot of experience with this. So, and I've had many, many encounters with them. I've talked to them. I've talked to them in the after. So this was not new for me. Like I said, the first time I had one come into me was the one I told you about. But this was a different experience altogether. And it was literally about, I would say, 8 days of intense clearing and working with my soul and asking God for help and even calling Christ consciousness into my body. Not that it's not always there, but to intentionally fill myself with light. And after 8 days, they finally dissipated. And then when I looked inside myself, the nanobots were not there anymore. And since then, I've had no more attacks from these entities. But it was like, I'd like to ask you, have you ever heard of anyone having a physical penetration from a being like that?
No, I haven't. I never heard such story with a physical penetration. I had a lot of stories about spiritual penetration and possessions. I also, when I look back, I had a possession by a black magician. I think over 2 years. But in these 2 years, I could learn how to release him. Yeah. And how to change him, how to transform him. Though I needed this 2 years, but it was not a nice experience.
No,
not so strong like your story. That's hard.
Well, it was so shocking to me, Thomas, because when that happened, I was sleeping. I have 2 wives. You met Angie, Penny. Angie's my other wife. Angie's a highly trained shaman and works in these realms all the time. And I was sleeping with Angie that night. And when this thing hit me, it hurt so bad. I literally jumped up in bed and I screamed. It was literally like someone drove a knife through my tongue. And I stuck my tongue out. I went up to the mirror and there was a hole in my tongue, like I bit right through my tongue, and my tongue was bleeding and it was extremely painful. And it took about, I wouldn't know, 10 days to 2 weeks. It didn't heal very fast. It was like, wow, this is a nasty wound. It would hurt when I would eat. And I'm like, I have never, ever in my life had heard of or had an account of an actual penetration.
No.
And that's why I said to my soul, why on earth is this happening to me? You know, I'm not a guy that, you know, I live from my heart. And that's when my soul said, you needed to experience this because you have the knowledge and the skill to help other people heal. And you need to get you need to do a podcast to let people know what's actually happening to people. And that's what led me to tracking you down. At first, I read your book, you know, and I thought, okay, I could do this podcast alone. But when I read your book, and I looked into your background, I thought, you know, this would be better to talk to Thomas about so that we get some mutual agreement and understanding. And people don't just think, oh, Paul's fucking crazy, you know?
Yeah.
So in your book, you give a nice overview of the subtle energy anatomy, the layers of the energy field. So I thought maybe you could just talk briefly about these layers, give people sort of a basic overview so that when we're talking about it, if you mention like a lot of people don't really know what the etheric body is, for example, that way when you're talking about it, they'll have a bit of a base to understand you with.
Yeah. Yeah, I will try it because it's quite complex, and because our material body is only one part of our whole organization, is the smallest part.
Yeah,
but we are always looking only to the material body.
Yeah.
So I would try to describe a little bit. Our viewpoints. And at first, the material body, there is also a blueprint, a spiritual blueprint of the material body. And this blueprint we call form body or phantom body. And the blueprint is, if you can feel it, you can feel him also in your aura. It's some nearby your physical body, but it's more. But it's only a spiritual body, and it's important because the COVID illness or the vaccination has an effect on this phantom body. So if people have taken the COVID vaccination, then there are breaks in the phantom body. So
which affects the way the cells organize themselves and the systems of the cells and the systems run.
Yes. And then there is also the etheric body or the body of life forces. So what is the ether? In China, it's called Qi, in Japan, Ki, in India, Prana. And everyone feels if he has energy or not. And that is what's going on with your ether body. Mm-hmm. And the ether body always is working to create also the material forms. If you look to a plant or to a flower, then first is there a big ether body, and then the flower appears in the material form. So that means the ether is always before something is in a material appearance. Mm-hmm. That's important to understand because the spirit is always at first, but the materialism said some material stuff is at first, but that's not true.
No, the spirit informs the matter.
Yes. And then we had, if we speak about the bodies, then we have what is called astral body, or you also can say sentient body. That is, that are all our feelings and sensations. And you can, if you meet perhaps someone who is in a deep depression, you can feel it immediately, what is going on in his astral body. And if someone is full of joy, you can feel the joy. But where is the joy? The joy is the astral body. And then that are the main bodies of the human being. And then we also have a soul, and we distinguish, the sentient soul, the intellectual soul. Intellectual soul is, another word is mental body. It's the same. And the conscious soul and the consciousness soul. With the consciousness soul, it's you can experience it in a meditative state, and then you are more in contact with your I, and the I is of course coming from the higher I, the higher I above us. The higher I lives in the star, but stars in the heaven, but. It's always that the I is the core of our soul, then dwells into our bodies. And that is going on every morning. So and I know it quite well. I need really a lot of time until I'm there. So I'm in some kind, okay, I'm awake, but but I'm not there.
Yeah.
I'm not present. And it needs some time. After 10 minutes or a quarter, then my I and my soul has dwelt better in my bodies, and then I would say, okay, now I'm here.
You're back on.
Yeah. So, and then we had and what I would call the spirit members of the human being, and the spirit members are cosmic. That is our cosmic dimension, and in anthroposophy it's helpful for me. It's distinguished between spirit self, that is a spiritual consciousness, the life spirit, that is a spiritual forces creating something, and the spirit human. And the spirit human is big, like is so big, like the whole cosmos is.
Yes.
That is our cosmic dimension, and that is not easy to understand and to feel.
Right.
And then another part of our members is our spiritual team. That is quite important. So in our spiritual team, there is at first the angel, because it's in reality it's a circle of angels, but we have one main angel who is supporting us, and when we have the feeling, so I'm really by myself, I feel myself, I'm in contact with myself, then I'm also in contact with my angel. That is important to understand. It's not something strange. It's if we are together with our angel, so that then we feel well and sheltered. And it's always a question: how is the connection of the soul to the angel? Is there a connection, or are there breaks or blockages? Another important part of the spiritual team is our body elemental being. And the body elemental being is like the consciousness of our body, the consciousness of the ether body. And then we had, that's also quite important, all our shadows, old karma, split of soul parts. And I like to use the word doppelganger. It's an old German word that means that is a double of mine walking beside me with everything I did not have
the ability to process.
Yeah. So it's everything, and we had a lot of old karma. That is important to understand, because most of us have incarnations since Atlantis, since the old Lemurian time, and since then we have collected all karma, unresolved emotions, and so on, and that is always in the doppelganger. That is a doppelganger, and the doppelganger is also, you can say, is our part of the inner earth layers where the collective shadows are stored, and that is our individual part. So our angel is our connection to the spirit heavenly, layers our doppelganger to the hell. You can use this word, but I don't like to use it because the association is always so moralic. But but it's important not to be moralic, not to. So it is, and we have to look, and every being needs help, and we have to understand it, and that is the way of looking. So that is, I hope it was a little bit understandable.
Yeah, so it was good. Yeah, I understood it. I've studied a lot of Steiner's work for a very long time, so I'm familiar with his models. And one of the challenges for those that study is there's so many different models out there and different systems, from the Egyptian system to you name it. I've studied a lot of them. But I think the most important thing is one, for me as a therapist, I study a lot of models to see which one of them makes the most sense to me and is actually reflects what I see in my work clairvoyantly and just from my own experience. But for our conversation, I wanted people to have an understanding of what you share in your book and Steiner's model, because that's how you address it in the book. So I wanted them to have that foundation moving forward.
Yeah, but I think in the end, all different descriptions you would come together if you are able really to experience it. If it's experience based, then you can understand what is meant with another word, with another concept.
Yeah. It's just like different names for the same levels of an onion.
Yeah, but often it's confusing, and often it needs really it's a hard work to understand it. That's true.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. And I've studied a lot of Steiner's teachings on Lucifer, Christ, and Ahriman. Actually, my most listened to podcast in the whole year for 2023 was my podcast titled Lucifer, Christ, Ahriman, which is a 5-hour special, which shocked me that many people wanted to hear that one, because it got massive response. And I went through the layers of the energy field and everything to lay the foundation. Normally events such as world wars, genocide, child trafficking, the breakdown of cultures all the way to the family unit, and the profoundly shocking evidence that the COVID pandemic was actually a plandemic are hard for people to grapple with. There's been, and probably always will be, regular encounters with evil in the world. So could you share an overview of how you feel Steiner would put the COVID pandemic and related world events into perspective from the perspective of the Lucifer, Christ, Ahriman model?
Yeah, I will try it. But first, what is Lucifer? Easy explanation is Lucifer is a temptation. Lucifer is Hollywood. What is Ahriman is on the other side. That is the Wall Street. That is the Islamic side, and you have and Christ, would be the middle.
Yeah,
who balance both.
Yeah,
and that is easily, but often the Luciferic side, it's not so well known, because Lucifer, you feel good with Lucifer. Mm-hmm. It's so nice. You feel good. You are more. You are. And so on. So, but it's always a starting temptation. But behind Lucifer, normally Ahrimanic beings or other demonic beings are coming. But I will come back to to Rudolf Steiner, and I choose 2 quotes from Rudolf Steiner from 1917 as the motto for the book about COVID vaccination, because Rudolf Steiner foresaw how transhumanist materialism would take over mankind. And these statements get really to the heart of the matter. And he said, people will be inoculated against their disposition towards spiritual ideas. And the materialistic physicians will be entrusted with the task of expelling the souls from mankind. And that, I think, what is happening with the COVID vaccination, in the end, with all vaccination, but the COVID vaccination was the hardest stuff.
Yes.
And so, but he saws it clear what will happen 100 years later. And another quote is quite interesting. In 1916, he made the following forecast. It will be not long after the year 2000 is written when a kind of prohibition will come from America, not a direct one, but a law that will have the purpose of suppressing all individual thinking. So, and I think that we also could experience this totalitarian approach in our politics, and it's quite interesting how he brought it. He saw it because he could really. But why could he see it? Because he could experience the materialism in his time. And by deepen in this materialism, then gets clear how it will be lead. And then in several lectures in 1919, Rudolf Steiner described that the incarnation of Ahriman was due to occur in the early part of the third millennium. And we are there now. We are in the beginning of the third millennium. And reading his descriptions, it's I feel really I'm in the present day. As Rudolf Steiner specifies several currents that are preparing the incarnation of Ahriman, and these include scientific materialism, an intellectual and cultural life driven by the economic forces. Yeah, we have it.
Exactly.
Yeah. The privatization of knowledge in libraries and today on electronic storage media, this privatization of knowledge, not living knowledge, and the belief in the omnipotence of numbers and statistics.
Yep.
We have it, and also the establishment of a world government.
Yes.
That's also on the way. And then he speaks about the incarnation of Ahriman, and in my understanding, the incarnation of Ahriman must be understood in a lengthy process. So that means that the Ahrimanic spirits think step by step into the various members of the human being. So when Ahriman penetrates the eye, one no longer experiences it. One is absorbed by the outside world. And that we have it since a long time, in centuries, but through meditation, religion, art, or intensive thinking, you can overcome the influence of Ahriman. But otherwise, you cannot see the spiritual world again, because Ahriman is like a black cloud around your consciousness.
Yeah.
And when Ahrimanic beings wail one thinking, then the result is abstract and lifeless thoughts. And today many see this as the norm. It should be abstract.
Yes.
And that means Ahrimanic beings have already occupied the realm of thinking to a great extent. And in the present age, the Ahrimanic beings are fighting especially for the realm of human feeling. And the more the incarnation of Ahriman advances within the sphere of feeling, the more emotionally, the more you do not have your own emotions. You are your emotions are coming from outside. And then the Arimanization of the human life bodies has also begun, and the result is visible today. It's a machine man with artificial intelligence, the idol of transhumanism. That would be, in the end, the incarnation of Ahriman. Of course, Rudolf Steiner describes that the incarnation of Ahriman is then also in an individual person, but that is not the important step. The important thing is that it's the Ahrimanization of the whole humanity.
Yes.
And but why does it come? I think the incarnation of Ahriman is a necessary event in the evolution, and because we can learn a lot. It's a challenge, and we can learn to stay free against him, and then our evolution will go on. Or that is the other possibility, that we lose as human beings our humanity and becomes machines. And that's the goal of today's materialistic world religion. And we had now today a materialistic world religion.
Scientism.
But it is. And this world religion permeates all areas of social life, and there's an unspoken creed. And the unspoken creed is perhaps like, there is no spiritual world, only the material world. Sickness is the devil, dying is hell, and our heaven is survival. Our Redeemer and Savior is technical medicine and vaccines. And since we only consist of matter, our bodies can be replaced by technology. And we receive eternal life if our brain is replaced by a computer. And we don't call it religion, we call it science, because then the people believe in it more. So something like that could be the creed of the materialistic world religion.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit an overview.
Yeah, it's a good one. I actually shared every one of those quotes in my podcast that I told you about.
Okay.
Yeah, and I did a thorough study. The script for that podcast was 91 pages. It took me a month to put that together. I was so concerned about what was going on in the world. I stopped everything and worked for 1 month solid to put that podcast together. That was the first podcast that Penny and Angie participated in as readers. We each took a part. One of us was Ahriman, one of us was Christ, and one of us was Lucifer. So the podcast unfolds like a play. And I had calls and emails from all over the world, from people I never knew listened to my podcast, saying how it blew their mind. But I wanted to just give a little clarification for the listeners. The concept of Ahriman comes from Zoroastrianism, which is actually thought to be potentially the most ancient religion in the world. But in Zoroastrianism, Ahriman is what would be akin to the Christian conception of the devil. And he's the antagonist to Ahura Mazda, who is the god of good and love and beauty and all the things that people normally associate with God. So whenever we're hearing Ahrimanic, we're talking about some kind of a negative effect or something that is oppositional or complementary oppositional to what we would conceive of as the good. So that's just for those of you that are not familiar with these concepts at all. But really, Ahriman would be the closest you could get to the Christian conception of the devil or of evil. Hi, everybody. Have you ever wondered why your blood is red? It's because it's full of oxygen and life force. It's what keeps you going. But what if I could tell you about something else that's red that will add more life force and keep you going? And if you start with a red juice before you have coffee or tea and wait a few minutes, you might find that you either don't need the coffee or the tea, or you need less of it. But this time, instead of getting coffee and tea, you got a lot of nutrition and a lot of great stuff for stress management and detoxification.
And it's so important. I got Drew Cannoli. It took me 2 years to get him to come hang out with me and talk about this. I said, Drew, tell me more about your red juice. And he is right here to tell us what is on with your red juice. My kids love it. Everybody I know loves it.
Well, I love that we have it for kids. Because when I was a kid, there was this big red dude that would burst through a brick wall. And he was like, oh, yeah. And he would feed me a glass of 50 grams of sugar, giving most people diabetes, ADHD, addiction, obesity, all the things, right? So when we created Red, it was, what's the alternative? If we could create something that could create lasting stamina, lasting energy. And then we started to look at our ancient ancestors. We talk about the Vikings, the people that were rowing across the oceans for days to go to war. What were they taking? Well, they were taking rhodiola. Rhodiola is in our red juice. And then we were like, okay, so out of all the mushrooms, what's one of the best medicinal mushrooms that can give us long-lasting energy? We found cordyceps. Cordyceps are absolutely amazing. Not just any cordyceps or rhodiola, glyphosate residue-free and organic. And how can we make it taste better than the, how do we make it taste better than that without the sugar? We added a little monk fruit.
Monk fruit's amazing.
Yep. And we found the best berries on the planet. Berries in high amounts, which we have in the red juice, actually help increase stem cell creation in your body. What's better than that for our little ones and for us? And so many people are just lethargic. They're lacking energy. What could we do for that? Red juice in the afternoon, 2 p.m. rolls around, instead of a nap, instead of the coffee, drink the red juice. You're going to feel so much better.
Well, if you need the nap, take the nap if you can, but then take the red juice to kick you back into gear.
Exactly. I love naps and I love coffee.
I do too, but I love to make sure I got the nutrition in me first. You know, the other thing is berries are a natural stimulant to the adrenal glands. So if people would do a little red juice before they do coffee and tea, they would pick themselves up naturally, except this time they're bringing in nutrition. And unfortunately, coffee blocks almost every vitamin and mineral you can put in your mouth. So hey, there you have it, right from the man himself.
To try Organifi's red juice and get 20% off your order, go to Organifi.com/Chek20 and use the promo code Chek20 at checkout. That's Organifi.com/CHEK20 and the promo code is CHEK20 for a 20% discount.
But I think Rudolf Steiner didn't use a new term, because then you can create a new understanding. Because with if you say devil, then you are in the trap of the Christian theology,
right?
Because Ariman also has a good side. I only want to speak a little bit about the good side.
Yes, I'm familiar with it, but go ahead.
Yeah, but because though that we could experience matter, that we could live in a material world, we need the work of Ahriman. The angels alone are not able to create a material world. Ahriman must help. Or in social life, we need structure and we need responsibilities. Who is responsible for which task? And that is an Ahrimanic force. If we only have Lucifer in our social life, it would be a destructive chaos. So Ahriman also can help us to organize the things. But the problem is if it's too much. If it's not balanced by the Christ power, not balanced by the love and balanced by the heart. If it's too much, so if we only have bureaucracy, we only have to following rules and writing reports, then Ahriman has taken over our social life.
Right. And Ahriman's responsible for the crystallization and hardening process that gives us bones and teeth, for example. So there's an example of how we couldn't have a body without the Ahrimanic force. And Lucifer is the bringer of light. So Lucifer has a lot to do with consciousness and freedom and many other things. I went into this in great detail in my podcast, but I'm just adding some of these other factors so people know that these are not just Ahriman, like you said, it's not just negative. It's just for us to do the work of holding the balance, which is why a spiritual practice is so important.
Yeah, of course. And it's also, and for me, it's always important also to understand what is the task of, demonic forces. What is the good side of them? Because we have, so I always try to love them, not to be afraid of them.
Well, I'm normally that way too, but boy, when I had these things penetrating my body, I was starting to, I was getting a little, okay, that's enough.
Yeah, it was a big challenge. I also experienced such challenges, but after a year, you can look in another way back on it.
Well, I can look back on it now and say, thank God I learned that, because I can have a lot more empathy for people. And if I hadn't have done that, I wouldn't be talking to you right now.
Yeah, of course. But we spoke a little bit about Lucifer and Ahriman, a little bit more, but it's in my view, it's quite important to understand it's not Ahriman alone. Ahriman is the door opener for other spirits.
Yes.
We call it Asuric or Soratic spirits.
Yes.
He is the door opener. That is important to understand. And what is and the big problem is the black magic forces, and that our black magic forces are always connected with soratic beings. So that's also a term used by Rudolf Steiner. I also use it because I don't know another term. And that is important to understand. Also, the incarnation of Ahriman would be quite easy if we do not have such a lot of black magic in our world.
Could you explain that? You're saying it would be easy if we didn't have black magic? That seems kind of hard for me to understand.
So I would say the whole COVID story is a black magic story.
Right. That's what my next question was about. Do you feel that black magic is behind the events of COVID? So, but the thing is, though, is maybe I misunderstood you. I thought you said that without the black magic, it would be easier for Ahriman to incarnate.
No. The problem is not the incarnation of Ahriman. The problem is that behind Ahriman, a lot of Soratic and Asuric beings get entrance gets the entrance, and Ahriman is like the door opener.
Right.
If it would be Ahriman alone, it would be not so hard. That's what I wanted to say. For me, because for me it's important really to distinguish the counter forces and the demonic forces. I really to understand what they are, because when I have an understanding, then it's possible to transform them and to work with them.
Okay, so just for clarification, how are these Soratic beings and other dark beings making it harder for Ahriman? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Then if they say only Ahriman is the door opener, they come with Ahriman, and then it's not only bureaucracy, and it's not only forming and giving structure. No, it's really bad intention, and it's cruel. And but I have to say some words about black magic, so it gets clear, because it's important to understand that black magic exists for a long time.
Yeah, very long time.
Very long time. That is important to know. And I would black magic characterize like that people go in contact, make a contract with satanic or soratic spirits, and they get power from this contract. But in the same way, they lose the contact to the divine universal law, the cosmic Christ, or in Buddhism you could say the Buddha Amitabha. The cosmic, that is important to understand. If someone goes the black magic way, he loses the nourishing from the cosmic love. And as a result, they must feed on other beings like parasites. that is the only way how they can survive. And this black magic began in ancient Atlantis, perhaps also further, but I think a biggest point was really the old Atlantis, and this black magic in the old Atlantis lead to its downfall. And since then, there have been black magic networks that are constantly at work. That's important to understand.
Yes.
And it's not so much about incarnated black magicians. Often, always the people in our materialistic time only look to the who is incarnated, but that's not so important. Much more important are the excarnated black magicians in the spiritual world, because they inspire also the incarnated humans.
Yes.
And you can meditate everything with a question. You can accompany a political party. Are there in the aura of the company, are there excarnated black magicians?
Lots of them.
That is a good question. And whenever it is war, rape, or torture, then spiritual black magicians are at work. And our world is much more permeated by such excarnated black magicians than most people can imagine.
Right.
And when perhaps this COVID story started, so it was like gold fever for this black magic egregore.
Because they feed off all the fear and negative emotion. They get a lot of energy out of it
because they eat it. That is feeding them.
Yeah.
Though. Yeah, so it's only a little bit about black magic, but to understand this black magic way, it's also necessary to get an understanding about the Asuric and the Soratic beings.
Well, please do. Go ahead.
Yeah, I try it. So how it is possible in because it's hard really to speak about it, because you must for understanding you must feel it. So we've spoken about this temptation of Lucifer, this form power of Ahriman and coldness of Ahriman, and then the Arthuric being, that is a third big group, and they is destroying your eye. It's like if you take a hammer and hammer a window.
Yeah, shatter it.
Yeah, and though that is what the Arthuric beings are doing. So, and if you a little bit only to make it clear. So, in our money, if you have paper money, on the paper money there is a strong Luciferic influence, and you are rich. And you could show your paper money. If you have coin money, on the coin money there is an Ahrimanic influence. That is like Dagobert Duck wanted to swim in his gold coins, wanted to hold it, this holding power. I want more. And on the cards, bank cards, there is an Asuric influence. Credit cards. On these credit cards there is an Asuric influence, and a lot of companies like that, because then the people lose their eye, lose the control, they are confused, and they buy more.
Yeah.
Credit cards.
Yeah.
So I only wanted to bring this example to make it clear that we are daily in contact with such counter forces. So now.
I just want to interject a second. What do you think? I mean, classically, Steiner equated electronic equipment, televisions, radios, and things like that with Ahriman. What do you think? Because video games are really becoming a huge problem for the development of children and addiction. How would you classify that from an Ahrimanic and Luciferic perspective or Asuric perspective?
Okay, also a video game has a big temptation. That's Lucifer. That is always in the front side. So it's Lucifer, and that is why kids want to play it. But the technical background, that is Ahriman.
Right.
But that is Ahriman. But then often there are Asuric beings also in the games, and that means the children lose their eye. They get there's a term digital demence.
Say that again.
Dementia.
Oh yeah, they lose their mind.
That's my German. Digital dementia. That is what the Arthuric beings create, but it's not in often behind this counter forces. Then there is other Soratic beings, and it will, I think, depends which game. By some games more, by other games less. And this Soratic beings, that is aggressive, destroying character.
Right.
But it's not only with video games, you also have it with every film.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, and I'm a bad TV looker, because I always experience the spirits who are in a film.
I feel them too. I feel them, but at the same time, I'm an ex-paratrooper. You know what a paratrooper is?
No.
Okay, I was the elite level of soldiers that jump out of the aircraft with parachutes into the battlefield.
Yeah.
So that's what when I was a young man, I was a paratrooper. And I come from a lot of action, martial arts background, boxing background. So I like a good action movie, but I feel those beings working through those movies. But at the same time, I enjoy a good story. I know it's Hollywood, so I'm able to separate myself from it. But many times after watching those movies, I go to bed and I have to clear myself of them because I feel them acting through me. And you can tell because you'll have you'll start thinking things are going to happen to you like what happened in the movie, or you'll think that someone's going to break into your house, or, so you have to clear yourself. What I do is I just open my heart chakra and I breathe God's unconditional love into my being and fill myself with God's love. And that just clears everything out of me, and it resets myself, and it blows those beings out of me.
Yeah, you described it quite well. It's the spiritual attack only by looking one film.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, it's dangerous. It's dangerous. I get the question in our meditation workshops: Is it dangerous to meditate? And my answer is always no. It's more dangerous to open the newspaper or to turn on the TV. It's quite more dangerous.
Yeah, it is. It really is. And of course, that's why Waldorf school teachers don't want kids using those things.
Yeah.
And the kids go on, both our kids are in a Steiner school, Waldorf school. And so they go on a fast, I think every couple of months, 3 months, they go 1 month off. And we can clearly see the change in their behavior. And we tightly limit how much access do they have, and we limit what games they can use or not use. Yeah. But still, even with the limitations, it still affects them. And we know when we've got to take them away because they need to get outside and get rid of that stuff, because it has a powerful, powerful effect. And then and today we have a huge problem with that, because so many people don't have time to parent. So they just put them in front of televisions and on video games all day long.
Yeah.
And it's devastating.
It's really one of the biggest problem of humanity. I see it in the same way, but it's not only about the content. It's also only about the technique. So this Soratic and Asuric beings are always behind every mobile tower. Also in your smartphone, normally there are small Soratic beings. So, and we did a lot of research and to this matter, and also try how is it possible to redeem it and to change these beings? It's possible, but not if only a few people are doing this work. The whole society had to do it. So perhaps some and it gets worse. It gets harder and harder. So with 4G is terrible, but 5G is quite more terrible.
Yeah.
And we did a research turning on 5G on the smartphone. What is happening then? So we did an examination, and the outcome was, after turning on 5G on the smartphone, that means 5G radiation is in the room.
Yeah.
I could not feel the flowers on the table anymore. It's like looking
through a veil
on a postcard. Yeah, I could not. My feeling was really cut off. And then I tried to meditate a sentence, and it was not possible. It was only meaningless words. I could not come in a feeling. So then. Also, then my etheric, my life force body trunks get smaller. Mm-hmm. So it's quite. If you really if you are really look, what are the effects? The effects are horrible. It's a spiritual attack only to turning on your smartphone on 5G.
Yeah,
that is important. That is important to know, and that is how the black magic forces work today.
Yeah.
And because for me it's black magic, because in the end, if you go, okay, who is sitting in the 5G or 4G mobile radiation, who is sitting? Then I find, okay, there are Asuric beings, Soratic beings. Okay, who is behind the Soratic beings? Then I normally come to excarnated
black magicians.
And they are in a gold fever, because it's a possibility for them to get energy, life energy, soul energy, spiritual energy from the whole humanity.
Are you familiar with Ibrahim Karim's biogeometry?
No.
You need to listen to any of my podcasts. Ibrahim Karim is the founder of biogeometry, and it's a very advanced science, and he trains people very comprehensively. Angie is now in training to be an instructor, so we can teach it through the Institute. But for example, here's my phone, and you see that symbol right there, that metal?
Yeah.
That has symbols on it that you can't, there you go. Those symbols, they reconstruct the energy flow into and out of the phone, so it produces energy that harmonizes with a frequency called BG3, which is a form of green frequency, negative green it's called. And that's what Ibrahim Karim found at all the main healing sites all over the world that were famous for healing, from wells that were known to have healing water, Egyptian pyramids. He measured them all over the world and identified that frequency. And so I have a home kit, and it basically attaches to the water mains, to the electrical mains, and there's a cube that has signatures in it, and lasered in, that tune all the organs and glands of the body and systems of the body. So any negative frequency, if it's too high, it gets brought down. If it's too low, it gets brought up. And so that knocks all the negative stuff out of the phone. I can't handle being near anybody's phones, but with this on it, it neutralizes it. So it actually takes those negative energies and makes them produce healing energy.
Okay, yeah. There's a lot of possibilities to work with it. But let's and that is a challenge we have. We have really first to understand which beings are attracted and how could we stand against them, and then what can we do to transform them.
Yeah,
that is our main task. And let's, but one sentence more to the Soratic beings, because it's for me it was quite important to understand that the Luciferic, Ahrimanic, Asuric beings are a part of our evolution. They are part of our universe, but the Soratic beings are coming from outside. You also can say they are coming from older levels of the Earth's evolution. So Rudolf Steiner describes the Earth evolution in 7 parts, but I don't want to describe it now.
It's too long. I put it in my podcast, the epochs.
And the Somatic beings are not part of this 7 parts of the Earth evolution. They are coming from older times outside of the cosmos. But why are they coming? They are coming because they wanted. They want a release. They want to be changed. They are looking for something, but they will do it in such an aggressive way, and we cannot help them as a humanity today, though they are quite destructive. But they are only coming if we humans invite them. The temptation is always to get more power. That is always the temptation for every black magic career, to have more power. That is a temptation, but we have to invite them. That is important to understand. We are not victims. No, we have invited them as humanity.
Paleo Valley makes some incredible superfood bars that are a lot different than what most people think of as a superfood bar. I've got Autumn Smith, the creator of their superfood bars, right here to tell you about them. Autumn, what is so unique about your awesome superfood bars?
Well, our superfood bars are unique because not only do they not contain refined sugar or GMOs or any of the freaky additives that you'll find in most bars or gluten or anything, but they're just whole foods. They're low in sugar. They're made with superfoods like ginger and broccoli and acerola cherry and collagen from grass-fed and finished animals, which we all know is like a fountain of youth. And so the best part about them, though, is probably the flavor. They come in chocolate and apple cinnamon, and we have so many more delicious flavors to come, and they're easy to put in your bag to feed for you with your kids. And I hope you love them all as much as I do.
And now for fall, Paleo Valley are bringing back their pumpkin spice superfood bars. In addition to dark chocolate chip, red velvet, lemon meringue, and my personal favorite, apple cinnamon. You can throw one in your bag for an easy, healthy, and delicious snack anytime. To try Paleo Valley's superfood bars and get 15% off, go to paleovalley.com/Chek15. That's paleovalley.com/Chek15 for a 15% savings.
Well, that leads right to my next question beautifully. Thomas, how much power over people do the dark forces gain by creating and stimulating fear in people? And what are your suggestions for determining what is a worthy fear versus an unnecessary fear that people are manufacturing on their own?
Yeah, if you come in a spiritual contact with Soratic beings, you will have a lot of fear. Mm-hmm. Because they are the fear, 100% fear. Mm-hmm. So that is the main task, to stay with your fear and to be calm, and then then only it's possible to have an encountering with Soratic satanic beings. But that means I think black magic always is working with temptation and with fear, and the fear is always present and drives the people to do things they would not normally do. That is important to understand.
Such as getting vaccinated.
Yeah, of course, vaccinated. In Germany, we shall fight against Russia, and we shall go to army. The Russians don't want to fight against Europe, but we shall. But they are fear, yeah. Only fear, always.
It's
fear.
Constant in the media, just constant.
Constant, yeah. But that is how black magic. That is Rudolf Steiner also say. The media, the mass media, are the main black magic instrument.
Yes,
something like that. So and that means with the fear, you can lose your sense of yourself and your freedom. Though that is one side of the fear, but of course there is also a valid fear. a warning signal from the spiritual world. And the fear could be also, hey, stop, don't go further. You are not prepared to go further.
And or get together and do something about it. Like people getting together getting rid of 5G towers, which is happening all over the world, thankfully.
Yeah. And I think your question was how to deal with it. I think it is important to meditate on the fear, really to meditate on the fear, and to investigate who is behind the fear, which beings are behind the fear. And it could be your angel trying to warn you, or normally, more often, there are demonic beings behind the fear trying to grab you. Mm-hmm. But I think you cannot say fear is Sith or is from your angel or from the demons. It's not possible. You have really always to go to have a look into the fear and with the question, who is behind it?
Now you use the word angel. For a lot of people, that's probably a harder concept to understand. But just to share with the listeners and with you, if you look at the self, so I will use a Jungian psychological model. The self is the unique expression of God as an individual in each of us. And the self includes the unconscious, all the layers of the unconscious. It includes the highest self. It includes the soul, and it includes the ego. But in Persian spiritual concepts, the term Khidra, Khijra, pronounced Kidra, means guiding soul, which is actually, and I've investigated this very, very deeply for many years, Khidra is the central axis of the self. So it's the part that's paradoxically, if you think of a Christian cross, it's right in the center. It's where the vertical dimension pours into the horizontal dimension of time and experience. And that's the central part of each of us. So like when I'm dealing with anything challenging or just in my daily spiritual practice, when I say I'm talking to my soul, and the spirit is also inclusive of the self, but when I say I'm talking to my soul, I'm actually talking to my Khidra, my guiding spirit soul, which is the center of my very being, out of which the unconscious emerges, the highest self is a part of, the ego is a part of. And so I'm going to the very central part of myself. So when I was fighting these beings off, or whenever I deal with any of them, I always ask my Khidra to come forth, protect me, guide me, and I just listen. What should I do? And do this, do that. So I'm always in contact with. Now I've met my angel and I've worked with that because I've studied Steiner's techniques. I've practiced them, done these meditations, many of them over the years. But for a lot of people, they don't really, like the angel is more of etheric concept. Very few people have ever seen or experienced angels, but most of us have a conception of the soul. My point to you, Thomas, is I'm getting that same guidance from what I call my Khidra, which is my guiding soul. And I get the same effects. What's your thoughts in that regard?
Yeah, you have described a connection with your angel without using the word.
Right. Yeah.
But you have to describe it, and it's important to understand. With your higher self, you are always connected with your angel. Often it's hard to distinguish between the angel and your higher self. But the angel is like our. But we are not only soul, and we are not alone in the spiritual world. The spiritual world are beings, spiritual beings, and our angel is like our main contact person. Through our angel, higher angels are coming. Right. So but he is always with us to get in contact. But the problem, I think, the main problem behind is that in our materialistic time, it's not normal to speak about beings, spiritual beings.
Right.
Often they avoid it. They do working with the angels. They do working perhaps also with body elemental beings. There are a lot of therapeutic techniques working with directly working with body elemental being without naming it.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So, but for me, it makes a difference, because I'm not. I'm surrounded by spiritual beings, and I wanted to try to distinguish it. But it's okay. We can try different descriptions.
Right. Now, with regard to fear, I want to share a technique that I use and that I teach my patients and my clients and my students. I say, if you feel overcome with fear for any reason, the first thing you've got to do to ask yourself is, do I have food, water, safety, shelter, warmth? Can I love myself, and are there people that love me? And do I have breath? Food, water, safety, shelter, warmth, breath, love for myself, and are there people that love me? And if the answer to those questions is yes, then don't be afraid, because it's not something that's really ultimately that threatening. It may be just something being generated by your mind, or something you're taking on through media or the news. And I found that whenever, like even when these beings were attacking me, because of the intensity of it, I found myself starting to get afraid. But then I just said to myself, you have food, water, safety, shelter, warmth, breath. I said to my soul, are you there? Kidra, are you there? Yes. Can you guide me through this? Yes. So then I calmed down. Now, if I was to call to my soul and I didn't get an answer, I would be scared. I literally would be scared, because then I would definitely feel alone in the world.
Yeah.
So anyhow,
yes, that's great. But I want to share another approach with the fear in my healing work. I always trying to follow the fear.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
If I by myself, if something, I'm often possessed by spiritual beings. So it's, yeah, but then it's like to come in contact with them.
Yeah.
And then I'm looking, where is the fear? Oh yes, and if I follow the fear, I often come quite quick to the core of the being.
Yes.
Because there are often a lot of layers around them, and you cannot understand it. But if I follow the fear, then I know. But often then I come to somatic beings, and then it's possible to start a healing, transforming, and it's the same when I work with clients. I'm quite interested. I always ask, where is the biggest fear?
Mm-hmm.
And often the people are quite astonished, because they never wanted. They never.
They rarely think about it.
I think to look to what is the biggest fear. No, I don't want to look at it.
Yeah.
But if you do a healing work, it's this interesting point, because then you are coming to the core. And so I only want to share another positive approach, working with the fear.
Yeah, and I just, like I said a minute ago, I just breathe love. One of the ways I handle fear is I just, whenever I feel it coming, I answer those questions. But if it persists, I say, okay, I'm going to fill myself with love. So as I inhale, I visualize I'm being filled with God's unconditional love from every angle, like the sun in reverse, imploding. So I draw God's love into me with my breath, and I visualize healing green light entering my body. And I tell people you can use green, gold, white, or violet because of the healing properties. And then I just fill my body full of God's love. And then as I exhale, I say I give God's love to all beings in all places and all times and all dimensions as a gift to everybody. And within seconds of doing that, it knocks the fear out. It knocks the buzz out. I feel calm, centered, and I just do it until my vibration raises up. And I do that before all my meditations and work with my soul, because I find since I've been doing that now for quite some time, my soul led me to that practice, that I'm able to actually get much deeper into meditations, much clearer guidance from any of the spiritual beings that I work with, be it spirit guides or power animals or my soul. How do you feel about that approach?
Yeah, so it sounds quite good.
Yeah, give it a try. It's very, very powerful. And you find your vibration raising up quite high. It makes my field coherent. My energy field becomes more stable.
Yeah.
And, you know, I have, like you, I have to work with people that are in a lot of fear and oftentimes very unhealthy and life crisis. And it's hard to not, you know, because they're carrying that in, and I have to connect to them and look into them. It's impossible for me to, it's kind of like if someone's drowning, you have to get wet to save them. So I have to enter into people. And so I often I choose to fill myself with light and higher vibrations so that I don't get pulled down, kind of like what happened to me with that entity possession I told you about.
Yeah, it's the important thing is that you have positive connection to, I would say, to the angel, to Christ, or to a higher spiritual being, to the love of the world, love of the cosmos. You have really to have a connection. And it's also quite important to also create a connection to spiritual beings who can transform the thoracic beings.
Yes, that's an interesting concept. When you say transform them...
Because not every being, perhaps a normal angel, is not able to do something with them. In my experience, Archangel Michael, you can ask, or master like Christian Rosenkreuz, Kyteanos, also the healing Buddha. But it must be, you must have created a connection to a higher spiritual being who has the force to transform the thoracic beings. Not everyone can it. And if you have created such a connection, this gives you confidence. So I'm quite confident because I'm connected, and I can ask higher spiritual beings, and I'm sure they will be there if it's necessary, and they will come, and so I can go forward.
I appreciate that, and I agree with that. I just go directly to God. I mean, if I feel I need more protection than my soul can give me, my spirit soul, I just ask for God's protection, and I think that is the highest of all beings.
Yeah, you can do it in such a way, but God normally has a lot of arms.
Yes, all of them, including the thoracic beings. But I think it's the intention that matters. The intention is the critical thing.
Of course.
Well,
but it's important. You have to really create beforehand a positive connection to. You can, not if you have a big problem and you have a spiritual challenge, then it's not the time to create the connection to a higher spiritual being. You gotta.
That's why I tell people you got to work with these types of practices long enough that they're well versed. It's kind of like you don't want to start asking questions about how to drive a car after you've crashed one.
Yes.
You need to learn to drive first. I tell my students all the time, don't wait till you're in trouble to start talking to your soul, because your fear and the negative aspects of yourself will take over, and you won't know the difference between your soul and them. So you have to spend a lot of time working with your soul on things where you have no attachment to otherwise, like what color socks should I wear today? What shirt should I wear? How much of this vitamin should I take or not take? Where the ego doesn't have any attachment to the outcome.
Yes.
And then I say you pick up this, I call it the signature of the soul. You pay close attention to what you feel and where that answer is coming from and what the quality of it is. And that way you know if you're getting manipulated by other beings that are impersonating you, because the vibration is different. And I learned to pick up the signature of my soul. So I'm very sensitive to when some other being's trying to take over and trick me.
Yes.
Thomas, I found the many accounts of changes in people's body tissues, emotional, mental, cognitive functions you shared in your book very insightful. Can you give us an overview of some of the findings you had and maybe any suggestions that you have for restoring some of those imbalances, particularly in the tissues, or any aspect that people can do on their own?
Oh, okay. Let's start first what we found, what the COVID vaccination creates.
Yes.
So we found normally that the aura is ripped apart. So normally the aura is in layers around our physical body, but after someone gets the vaccination, it's ripped apart. It's what we say. I'm beside myself, but you could see it really orally. And then if we look to someone, it's not clear. Is it there? No, he's half a meter beside himself. No, he's there. No, he's a half a meter beside himself. So that is the first. That was one first effect, and. Perhaps I give you another example from a craniosacral therapist. She wrote me, in 5 treatments, I had recurring impression of holding a completely hollow, empty head between my hands. The etheric brain and the pineal gland felt as if dried up and shriveled. Although the craniosacral rhythm, normally perceptible on the surface, was not detectable. In more than 20 years of experience, I have never had such experience with any of my other clients. So that is a typical report from someone who is working every day with people over decades, and he has a lot of experience.
Yeah.
And though such, in the end, we found that this COVID vaccination is much more harmful than conventional vaccines. And in the end, they separate the physical and the etheric bodies from the soul and the spirit. And sensitive people can experience this in such a way that they feel separated from their self and abandoned from the angel or from the divine. And often they experience the physical body is denser and the life forces are weakened. And we I had a list of 22 aspects of effects we can check up. We can do a checking with this list, and there is the angel is shadowed. That is quite often quite normal. That means that the connection to the spirit world is weakened, or there are transhumanistic zorotic beings in the aura of the people, like black clouds, or like you have described inside the body. And there are not only these transhumanistic zorotic spirits, there are also transhumanistic zorotic elemental beings. That's another kind of being. We have discovered 13 different kinds of such elemental beings inside the body working. Though in such a way it goes on, I don't want to go now in more details. It's 22 different aspects.
Yeah, well, I think people can read the book. I highly recommend people read your book if they're interested, because it's really very thorough and well done.
But I want to give you another quote from afterwards from a reader of my book. He wrote me, "I'm aware of some of the issues with the vaccine through my own sensitivities. I feel it extremely difficult to be around anyone vaccinated. I feel the vaccine entities immediately trying to attack the portal to the soul on the back of my neck and cut my spiritual connection. Many are unaware of the spiritual connotations and dangers of the vaccine, nor can conceptualize the level of black magic involved. It goes even further than we think. Well, that was a typical quote from a reader. I get a lot of such experiences. And in the end, yes, the harmony of body, soul, and spirit is disturbed. The connection to the divine is disrupted. And also a lot of illnesses can appear, because if the harmony of the body is disturbed, that it could cause different illnesses. And also the spiritual life is burdened, also the mental life. And though it's and I understand it quite well, if you are possessed by such thoracic beings, nothing will work like it was. And another quite interesting thing was that I also get reports from healers in South America, and they haven't read my book, but a Swedish journalist visited a lot of indigenous communities, and he wrote me, more and more healers are noticing dramatic changes in the energy fields of people who have been vaccinated with the COVID-19 vaccines. Many of the healers describe that it has become much more difficult or even impossible to reach the soul or the higher self of the person, that the life forces have slowed down, and that the aura is full of empty spaces and no longer function as a protective shield against foreign energies. So it was quite interesting. Those indigenous healers in South America, they found the same thing we also found.
Yes.
So, and now your big question, what to do? I think without spiritual healing, it's not possible in the end. Only to take some medicine, it could be helpful, but in the end, you need spiritual help to overcome this possession.
Yeah. Now, I will just corroborate your findings by saying, I have a very extensive media network through YouTube, Instagram, and all sorts of things. So I have over 63,000 students of my institute. So I get emails constantly from all over the world about all sorts of stuff. But probably within the first 6 months to a year of the COVID vaccines being released, I started getting emails and text messages from people from all over the world that got vaccinated, even though I wouldn't have recommended that, and I never did, and nor did I, or anybody in my immediate family. But the common thing that people wrote to me and said, Paul, since I got vaccinated, I can no longer feel my soul. I feel like I'm completely alone or isolated. And that was from people all over the world reaching out to me. The other thing I wanted to share is that one of the things that I found very helpful, even with some family members that got vaccinated, which again, I didn't recommend, nor did any of us, my Angie or Penny. But I would do sound healing because, I'm a very busy person. So people would come and ask me for help, or they'd be really sick, or I could tell they were being very affected from getting vaccinated. And so I would do sound healing, and I would connect to their soul and ask for guidance on which frequencies to use. And in every single case, they describe improvements in balance, improvements in mental clarity, improvements in a sense of being integrated and feeling normal again was what they said. Now, the problem with sound healing is it doesn't have a long-term effect unless you just keep doing it over and over and over again. But at least it was helpful to give them some relief. Also, teaching people how to breathe properly, again, I found very, very helpful, along with drinking high-quality water, eating good food, and taking just general good care of the body. A lot of the people that got hit the hardest were people that just weren't taking care of themselves to begin with, as you know. So if there's anything you want to add to that, feel free.
What is necessary for healing?
Yeah.
Yeah, though I would say, so if you have taken the vaccine, the first question is you should go into yourself and what has brought you to take the vaccine.
Right.
Because there were emotions and it's a soul work necessary. So often there was a social pressure who lead to the vaccination. And but why you couldn't you resist? Why did you follow the pressure? So that is the first step, really, to be quite open to yourself, to your soul process. That is for me always, I think, the first emotion is the first step, because if you don't look to it, then you are open for
future problems. Yeah.
That's
a very important point.
Yeah, because it has happened. Okay, it has happened. No problem. But then you should learn something out of it.
Right.
And learn about yourself and so on. And you should, so that is the first point. The second point, either revocation of the signatures of the vaccination consent forms. So in Germany, we always, if you have taken a vaccine, you have to sign something that it is okay. And we had a lot of people have taken 3 vaccinations 3 times. They have signed. If you make a contract with the devil, the devil always is wanted 3 signs. So and it's important really to terminate the contract and to say, no, it was against my will. This contract is over.
So do they do that just mentally within yourself, or should you write something to make it more concrete?
Yeah, that's a question. So I have also something like a prayer, but it's not translated. I think the form, it doesn't matter. But with signing it, there you have created a spiritual reality.
Yes.
And on the spiritual level, there must be a change. You could do it inwardly, loud spoken, or writing something. I think writing something is then it's on the earth.
That's, yeah.
So, and then you can. There are a lot of supportive remedies. Though we always say that Artemisia annua, candle root, pine needles, and Dentalian, is it right spoken? So these 4 remedies are quite good, because this plant, the spirits of this plant, has the power to stand against these forces, these erratic forces in the vaccination. Then it's also good to do therapeutic work. It could be art therapy, craniosacral therapy, something. There's a lot of possibilities, and everything is helping you.
Yeah.
But in the end, you need a spiritual healing through clearing, transforming, through prayer, and removing the vaccine spirits from your own aura. And that is important, really, because you can do a lot of things, but if the spirits are in your aura, it goes on.
Yeah.
Perhaps they do not have such an influence, but without really facing the spirits, it's really hard. So that's I would say it's necessary. And how you are doing the spiritual healing, it's not so important. You must do it in an authentic way, where you have experience. So you can do different kinds, but with the intention, I wanted to bring out these spiritual beings, these aggressive beings, out of my aura. And there are at first, which beings are there? There are at first these thoracic transhumanistic spirits and elemental beings, and they are the most aggressive, fear-creating forces. But then a second quite important being is the being of the vaccine. You can think that if you have a nature remedy, if you have perhaps Artemisia annua, then with the Artemisia annua substance is connected the Artemisia annua spirit or angel.
Mm-hmm.
And in the same way, we have vaccine being, but it's not a good being. And if it's like normally it's in the back of someone and anchoring in different organs and with a destructive effect there.
Mm-hmm.
It's like an octopus.
Yeah.
In your back, it's like an octopus in the back, the vaccine being. Then, there could be, though that would be quite a lot if you really if you bring them out of your aura through spiritual healing.
Yes, and I feel that there is enough. I mean, I know at least in the United States and a lot of the countries that I operate in, anybody that wants to find a skilled, properly trained healer can do that. I mean, they can find people that have this skill. If they don't know how to do that themselves, they could find somebody who does healing work professionally to help them with that, don't you think?
Yeah, that's always the question, but I do not have the capacities to offer more healing sessions. My friends are all so full, full of work. So, and it doesn't. And I think if you have the intentions, then you can do something.
Right. Yeah, that's what I mean. I'm just saying that, like, there's many schools that produce healers all over the world. And I think that if somebody wants help and wants someone that has extrasensory abilities to look into them to do a thorough clearing, they should do the work to find a proper school that produces real skilled healers and get some help. I think that I'm not suggesting they come to you personally. I'm just saying that there are skilled people out there. I have many of them in my student body.
Of course, and we also experience that it could be for someone, it could be enough to go in the church service,
right?
Every Sunday, if he really did it in a deep way. For other one, it could be enough to go in nature because his church is the nature, and he has a lot of spiritual contact there. Mm-hmm. So it's quite individual. There's a lot of possibilities, but I think it's in the end it's important to understand there are spiritual beings possessing me. I wanted to face them, and how to face them. There are different ways, but to have the context, the motivation is important, because otherwise you can do a lot of things, but the spiritual beings are in your aura and sitting in your aura.
Yeah, and they're waiting for a time when you're afraid or you're weakened, and then they come right in.
Yeah.
Anything that causes decoherence.
And there is also over time the influence of this possession lose energy. But often I often also with dead people. For me, it's always a question: is someone dead? Has he a possession from the COVID vaccination? And often he has, and often it creates a problem in the afterlife.
Yes.
It could be, there are a lot of other possibilities how to have problems in the afterlife, but the COVID vaccination is a problem, and it's not over. It's not over. It's going on.
So if someone in your family has died and you know how to do spiritual healing, it's probably a good idea to do it for them now, even though they may not physically be here.
But what do you think? Do it now?
Well, what I'm saying, let's just say one of someone's family members died from the COVID vaccine.
Yeah.
And they're only learning about this now. They can still connect to the soul of that being and transmit a healing to them now.
Yeah, do it now, and it's never too late.
No.
Because the dead people are here always now.
Yes.
They are not gone.
Well, I know that. Yes, for sure. Now, we've talked about this a bit. You've described the types of beings. I wanted to share a little thought on where these things are coming from and how they come in. One of the things that I've seen is looking clairvoyantly into the vaccines. One of the things about the vaccines from very comprehensive analysis by experts in microscopy is that they did analysis of what's in them. They found metals that are not even on the periodic table. So they found things that are not even included in our lexicon of the elements of this planet. And so, interestingly enough, one researcher did a very extensive study of where could these have possibly come from and tracked it to only 2 laboratories in the world, both of which were contracted by DARPA, which was interesting, the Black Ops military people. And what I found is when I look clairvoyantly into the vaccines, just like you can see beings in a person's aura, I saw that in the aura of the vaccines, there was all sorts of these dark beings that we're talking about, very, serratic beings, and I would just classify them as evil, dark entities. So just like the sun shines light and we see the light of the sun emanating from the sun, when I looked into them, I literally saw these beings just floating around and they're just waiting for something to feed off of. So what I saw was that there was not only the beings that were the product of the chemical elements, the elementals, but there was also the beings of the intention of the people that made them. And then there was the beings of the entities that were infecting the people that made them. So 3 levels. Yes. So I just wanted to know what your thoughts. Am I missing anything there?
No. Yes, we see it in the same way. I don't want to speak about all beings who are connected with the vaccination because it's quite complicated. And then you have also the beings of the companies behind.
Well, yes. When I say the people, I mean the people.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, there is, but it's quite complex. Yes.
Yeah.
But I think on the first front, there are the somatic beings and the vaccine beings, and if they cannot really anchor in your system, then the other beings who are connected with the vaccination has no entry point anymore.
Okay. I found, looking into myself, that the nanotechnology, they looked to me to be made of aluminum. They all shined like aluminum. They looked exactly like aluminum. Their heads were made of triangles. Their arms were spinning blades, and they moved through. But they seemed to have a spiritual entity all of their own that I'd never seen or experienced before until I looked at this directly. Have you picked up any beings off the nanotechnology that's assembled in the body when they get vaccinated?
No, I cannot say something. Also not on the physical level, on the spiritual level, of course. Well, but that are yes, these different somatic beings, of course, but not on the physical level. But I cannot say something about it. It could be, of course.
Yeah, because I was so shocked. I mean, the first thing I thought is, what are they doing? So I watched, and I was watching them literally run through the lung tissue and cutting up the villi of the lungs and going through the arteries, and I could literally see them cutting the arteries up because they were like, you know how a rototiller has a spinning blade, or like a weed whacker spins a nylon string. They were spinning these triangular blades, and I was literally watching them cut me up, and I could feel my body just getting full of inflammation from it. And so when I looked deeper, they had their own aura with what I would describe as very tiny beings, even smaller than them, like lots of them attached to each one. And so I was asking my soul, how do I work with these? But interestingly, my soul told me to take key supplements, and I believe it was either NAC or NAD. I can't remember which of those two it was, but they seem to have a deactivating effect on the nanotechnology.
Okay, but do you really speak of nanotechnology or about your super sensible perceptions?
No, I'm speaking of actual mechanical,
okay,
like little tiny machines running through my body. And not only with, that's why I said they look like they were made of aluminum, and there's a lot of aluminum in these vaccines, but attached to them, I was seeing these other beings. Just like you have an aura.
I cannot say something. I cannot add something because I have never looked.
Well, if you ever get a chance, if you ever get someone that's been recently vaccinated, look into them, particularly look into their circulatory system, because they seem to really be floating around in the bloodstream, and they spin their little wheels like propellers, and they move through you just like a boat through the water. And there was billions of them. I mean, they were everywhere. I was like, oh my God, I'm under attack from an army of these crazy things.
Yeah.
So,
but this vaccination has a strong effect on the physical body. And a German doctor is making blood research, blood pictures.
Yes, I've seen lots of them.
After getting the vaccination, your whole blood has changed, and it's the form is destructed, and also the blood is not anymore open to the surrounding. It's closed.
Yes.
So, but immediately your whole blood is changed.
Yes.
It has a strong effect on the physical body.
Have you or they found anything that a person can use, supplements or anything to help heal the blood?
Now we have spoken about what I can say. I think spiritual. It's always necessary. The spiritual healing and to really create a spiritual connection, because then you will the spiritual world is stronger and can change everything. But you have to ask without asking and without creating a real relationship.
Right.
They cannot help you.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Well, you just as you spoke of the spirit of the plants, I know there's many healing plants that you can take, and there's a lot of things that help the blood.
Yeah, of course.
So I thought maybe you might have some thoughts in that regard, but there are
perhaps you have more thoughts about it.
Well, I know there's many people out there now. Dr. Andrew Kaufman and a number of experts have come up with a variety of different healing protocols. One of my friends who's quite famous, I won't mention her name, but she's very spiritual, and she basically told me she made the choice to get the vaccine because she was in the middle of a very big project and had to travel, and she said, if I didn't get it, I wasn't going to be able to travel. And my whole research project, she was in a PhD program, so my whole research project would come to an end. So I took the risk, but then she felt, all the things we've been talking about. So what she did when she got home, she has a place out in the forest, and she has a bathtub outside, and she filled it with hot water, and she put loads of pine needles into it, which has been known to be very helpful. But she went and got fresh pine needles and put them in, not something that you bought. And then she just got into the hot bath and asked her soul and asked the spirits to come help her heal. And she said after just one bath, all the negative effects were gone.
Okay, that's great to hear. Though I want to add a story of a friend who also was forced to take the vaccine because he get director of an old elders home, and it was obligate. He must from the government. It was necessary. So but then he told me that when he meditate, he could feel that the connection to the angel hierarchies, also the higher angel hierarchies in his chakra was gone, and then he tried to create the connection, but he needed around 2 months. 2 months daily meditative work to really overcome the effects of the vaccine. But it's quite it's an interesting point is sometimes it's quicker, sometimes it needs more time. But you should only end if it's over.
Yeah, it took me about 15 days, but I'd already had it for about 5 or 6 days before I started seeing the beings and feeling the attack. At first, I thought I was just fighting off a cold or something. But then when I got to the point, I knew something was wrong because I couldn't eat. And then I started losing my taste, my smell, and my balance. And I went, okay, I got something a lot worse than a common cold or something that I've typically dealt with. So once I engaged in the spiritual practice of fighting them off, I'm always doing spiritual practices every day. But what I found is now that I knew I had that and I had to focus on that and work with my soul, it took me about 15, maybe 16 days before I felt like my energy field had restored and my connection was back. And my body, I felt like, okay, I'm home now. I'm whole and I'm in myself. But that was 15 days of some pretty intensive work, sometimes 3 hours a day. But it worked, and I'm grateful. Thank the Lord I have the skills that I have. And that's why I wanted to do this podcast with you, because so many people out there haven't got a clue what's going on and don't realize there's much more to these things than just the toxicity of it, you know?
Yeah.
You've talked a little bit about this, Thomas. You've talked about the consequences for the soul and the spirit for life after death. Is there anything you want to add to help people understand how it is that it's stopping people progress in the afterlife?
Of course. But perhaps it's first it's important to understand what normally should going on in the afterlife. Normally, that is important because the afterlife has normally 3 deaths. There are 3 deaths. First, going out of your physical body, then you lose the sensual perception. That is the first death. The second death is that your ether body, that you going out of your ether body, and your ether body gets your surrounding. That is the second death. And the third death is that you are going out of your astral body, and your astral body will become the surroundings. That is important to understand. And on this way, there is what is called Kamaloka, where you have to go through all unsolved emotions, all your shadows, and it's and that's often quite hard.
Yeah,
and because everything you don't want to see, you have to face it. And also you have to face what have other people experienced through you.
Yes.
That is also quite hard. And that is called the Kamaloka. But it's a great experience in the end, because after going through that, you are free of yourself. So you have a free relationship to yourself. You do not have to hide something anymore. And that is the third death, going out of your astral body, and then the normal life in the spiritual world, in the Devachan, is beginning, and then you are living in the stars. And the problem is that though should it be, and at some point, then the soul decides to go back to the incarnation, and then the new bodies were created, and so on. But the problem is, if your ether body and your phantom body is possessed by soratic beings, then it could be that your ether body and the phantom body is hardened and cannot expand. And that means you also as a soul cannot detach yourself from that clumping ether body. And that could be the effect of the COVID vaccination, but it also could be the effect of chemotherapy or some there are pharmaceuticals or drugs like heroin or cocaine. But this COVID vaccination is like on the same level. And that means that the soul is hanging together with this possessed ether body, and that was it. And they stay as an earthbound soul, suffering and creating a bad atmosphere and possessing other incarnated people in the end. So that is the reality. And we have, so in Switzerland, where I live, there is a lot of accompanied suicide.
Right.
Assisted suicide.
Yeah.
But there is the same effect with this drugs of suicide drugs.
Yeah.
They lead, these drugs always create a destruction of the ether body, a possession, and they are in the end sitting in the hell.
Yes.
So that is important to understand. And when you are sitting as an earthbound death, then you are the food for the black magician networks. That is a great picture, because if there are a lot of souls earthbound, the black magicians has a lot to eat.
Yeah, it's sad.
That is a reality. And so far for understanding, and perhaps it's and then what you can do, it's quite easy. You have to do a healing work with the bodies of the deceased.
Yes.
But it's important not only to focus the soul of the dead person. No, it's important to look, okay, the soul, what is going on with the soul, but also to look to the ether body and to the phantom body, because with this intention, then the healing, your healing prayer really can reach the astral body or the ether body or the phantom body.
Yeah.
But perhaps I will give you a concrete example. So I will remember a dead man who was very well educated anthroposophically, and he was a spiritual man and art teacher, and he was urged by his family to be vaccinated, and 2 days later he fell from his bicycle and was dead, over 16 years old. And we meditated him in a group, and we found him completely confused and desperate in the afterlife. And he experienced no spiritual light as he was used to during his time on earth. He was a spiritual man. He could really get in a connection, but now it was not possible. He was cut off, locked up, and didn't know what was going on. And interesting point was, after we were able to make him understand that he was experiencing the consequences of the COVID vaccination and that he was being possessed by Suratic spirits, then he was able to face up to this, and his self-power was restored, and he was able to come back to his spiritual foundation.
Good.
It was necessary for him to get the orientation and to really understand what was going on there, because he was confused. And after that, we had the impression that he could now manage on his own. But on the other side, that was a quite special case. The dad usually need active help from someone from outside, because normally the people do not have such spiritual power by themselves that they can overcome the somatic beings. Normally, dead people really need spiritual help from others.
Yes. Yeah.
And the question is, what I mean with spiritual help? I can only tell how I do it. I really try to go in contact so that I can feel the demonic, the black forces. And for me, it's really important to feel them, because then I have my hands on it. Mm-hmm. And then I ask Archangel Michael and Devachanic souls who are connected with Michael. I normally, as my first son, I normally work together. He died before he was born, but he's my direct contact person.
Oh, good.
And as Albert, my first son, is always with me and helping, and then I go inwardly in contact with Archangel Michael. It goes quite quick if you are trained. It goes.
Yes.
It's immediately there. But and also the love of Christ, and then I encounter these somatic beings with these forces, and that's normally enough. Okay. But you have to do it.
Yes.
Because I experience that a lot of people don't know that it is possible to do spiritual healing by yourself, but you have to start and you have to do it.
Yes, I really am grateful that you're sharing what you're sharing. I'm sure a lot of people are thinking, well, I don't have the ability to do that. I don't even know how to begin that. But I would say to those people, if you just hold the clear vision of the person that you're connecting to that's passed over, and ask whatever your highest being is, God, your soul, your angel, the angels, with the healing intention, and bring that person deep into yourself, like hold the image of them in yourself, ask for the support of these beings, and then as you're holding that image, pour your love and healing intention, and see them as whole, and see them as free, and see them as free of all negative entities and effects. That by pouring that love in there and holding that intention, I think that can be a very powerful step that anybody can do.
Of course you can do it. It will have an effect. But if you are more experienced, then it's possible really to look, was it enough, or is it necessary to do another thing? So that is, if you are experienced, if you are a professional spiritual healer, you must have the possibility really to see how good was your healing.
Yes.
So the perception of the effects, that makes a professional healer. If you do not have the possibility of have such super sensible perceptions, but then you can do what you can do, and it will be enough.
It'll be something. It's better than nothing.
Yeah, of course.
And I would recommend people do it.
I wanted to share something. Perhaps it's interesting. Last year we visited Bali. It's an island in Indonesia. It's an old Hinduistic culture, but it's a Balinese culture, and and I was quite astonished because I didn't find earthbound souls there.
Oh, interesting.
Bali. No, in 2 months, not one.
Wow.
There could be one, but I had no encounter. And the atmosphere is quite clear, quite relaxing. That is why the people are coming to make holiday, but they don't know why. It is so a good atmosphere. But the background is that the Balinese people are praying and offering every day to the good spirits, but also to the demonic spirits, to the bad spirits. Also, the bad spirits get will get an offering with flowers, with rice. Also, the bad spirits get a prayer, and they it's not enough only to create the contact with the good spirits. We also have to do something for the bad spirits, because then they are not so aggressive.
Right.
when they are more nourished, more balanced. It's the idea is we have to balancing the bad spirits. Oh, and that's and they have great funerals accompanying the souls quite good, and it's helpful. I don't want to go in detail, but what I have learned is the effect if a whole society is doing spiritual work. Everyone is only doing a little bit. And the most Balinese people are not experienced spiritual healer, but everyone is doing a little bit every day, and that makes a difference.
Yeah, sure. It's interesting you mentioned Bali, because it's my wife Angie's favorite place. And when the lockdowns happened, it was one of the places we considered moving to take the kids and the family to get away, because I didn't know how bad it was going to get here. But that was the first place that we discussed as a family getting out of here and going to. And my son, my 9-year-old son, Mana, his middle name is Bumi, which is from Bali. It means of the earth.
Okay. Yeah, great. So, but for me, it was a ray of hope. Oh, yeah, it's possible to overcome all these demonic forces and to work with it. But the difference is really if it's the goal of a society.
Right. Yes. I mean, I think that's a great.
Because if only a few people are working spiritual, and all other people are always attracting demonic forces.
Well, yeah. And I think what you're saying really is another way of saying it is, if we work together as a family to do this, then you create a sphere of wholeness and protection and love. And if we can get one person alone is one thing, 2 people is better, a family is better. But then if a whole church does it together, or a whole group of people, if we can inspire people to do this in bigger and bigger groups, then I think this is what the whole world needs right now.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's one of the reasons I do this podcast, is to inspire and educate people on all the things that they can do and be inspired to go out and take their love into the world. And so some of you listening, maybe it's time for you to start your own world healing groups and help all these victims of COVID. One of the things I want to ask you, because we're getting close to the end, is what suggestions do you have now, knowing that they could try this again anytime? And there's very realistic possibilities. They'll try another. They've tried bird flu. They're trying this and that. These entities are not done with us. So any words on how you would suggest people begin preparing themselves now for whatever might come at us next?
Yeah, I think it's important to take it as a challenge, and always to look, what can I learn out of it, and what are my own resonance fields, and to work with these resonance fields. And if we have resonance fields to this black magic actions, then these black magic actions will come again and again until we have cleared us. That's my thinking. It's a challenge, and that is the best way to make something positive out of it.
Yes, it's interesting that we're having this conversation today, because tomorrow I'm giving a lesson to my Spirit Gym practitioners, which is a big group that I developed and run. And the topic is Tarot 15, the devil. And I go very deep into all of this.
Yeah, that is good. And also, and perhaps it's also important to understand that we are now living in a time to learn to handle the devil forces, the demonic forces.
Right.
That is the task of our time. That's the task. We
Yes.
do not have another task. And now, and everyone who is now on earth has chosen to incarnate in the time to make the experience of being confronted with these demonic forces. So let's do it.
You know, I'll tell you a funny story. When the pandemic started, I knew it was going on right away for lots of reasons. And then as it started getting crazier and crazier and the lockdowns happened, I went into meditation with my soul, and I said to my soul, I said, did we know this was going to be happening before we incarnated? My soul said, yes, that's why you incarnated. I said, oh my God, what was I thinking? And my soul said, you knew people were going to need help. And so you came to help. I'm like, so don't complain. That's why you're here.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my, I must have been in a different state of mind. But anyhow.
Yeah, our higher self has often other viewpoints than our lower self.
Yeah, absolutely. I may say amen to that. Well, Thomas, this has been a beautiful, informative podcast. You've been very generous. I'm so grateful for your life's path and your experience and your commitment and your depth of study and practice. You're a beautiful, shining light. So thank you. Would you like to have any closing comments just as we close? Any messages for everybody? Just sort of a message from the wise old man that you want to share?
No, I'm not the wise old man, but we have spoken a lot about demonic forces. But though it's important always to come back to the thought that the power of meditation, spiritual healing, the connection to Christ or the higher spiritual beings helps always, and everything can be transformed. That's important, really, to hold it in mind, and perhaps it needs a little bit longer than our lifetime. No problem. We do not have a hurry.
That's kind of funny. unless you get stuck in the astral realm for about 1 million years, that might slow you down a little bit. But that's why we have to do this healing work. Well, what a great closing statement, Thomas. Good job. Where can people find you, learn more about your work? What contacts, websites, or anything would you like to share as we close?
The best thing is thomasmeyer.together.org. Yeah.
But okay, great. Well, Thomas, as we close, I want to say thanks to all the listeners. Thank you to every one of you that realizes now how important your spiritual practice is, or starting one is. And thank you for all of you that have these skills and abilities for taking a little time to pour your love into the people that have died from the COVID vaccines, to the ones that you can help directly and indirectly just by sending your love to them through intention and practicing everything Thomas has shared. I highly recommend everybody read Thomas Mayer's book, COVID Vaccines from a Spiritual Perspective. There's a lot more in it than we covered here today, although we did a good job of really getting into it. And so I'll say thank you guys for participating and joining Thomas and I today. And thank you to our sponsors for all your love and your beautiful products, and for doing your best to put money in the hands of organic and biodynamic and free-range farmers to support the planet and all of us. Thanks for all of you. Anything you buy from the sponsors helps support the podcast and the farmers and the great companies that sponsor the podcast and you. That's a good deal. And I look forward to sharing something awesome with you next podcast a week from now. So lots of love, Thomas. Once again, thank you. You're an angel, my man.
Thank you for inviting, and thank you for this long, deep talk.
Well, I think it was important to have a long, deep talk on this topic. And I would like to invite you in the future, if you have other topics that you think are important that you want to share, email me, send me some suggestions of what you want to talk about. And you have an open door, buddy.
Okay, can do.
Love it. Okay, bye everybody. Lots of love. Aho.
Thank you for listening to Spirit Gym with Paul Chek and today's guest, Thomas Meyer. You can find Thomas's books, including COVID Vaccines from a Spiritual Perspective, Answering the Call of the Elementals, Overcoming Fear, Exercises for Spiritual Self-Defense, and Co-Creating with the Elementals on Amazon.com and also on his website at anthroposophical-meditation.info. You can also visit his website for dates and locations of his upcoming workshops. That's anthroposophical-meditation.info. For more interaction with Paul and to share ideas and ask questions about topics discussed in this podcast, we invite you to join his Spirit Gym program and community. There are 3 different levels of membership, and you can participate in live Q&A sessions with podcast guests, access the members forum within the Spirit Gym community, where you can chat with other members, attend weekly virtual meetups with Paul, and study the comprehensive Master Key online program. Explore the options and subscribe today by going to myspiritgym.com. And finally, if you enjoyed today's episode, please consider leaving us a 5-star rating and a warm review on the podcast platform of your choice. This podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Audible, and YouTube.